Here we are again, the latest in a long line of embarrassments, the second in a week. And unfortunately, it turns out that that mad United moment was just that. It was just a moment. There was nothing concrete or tangible to take into the next game. Chelsea in the last week have played the bottom two and they failed to beat both of them, conceding late goals, drawing 2-2, leading twice and failing to win, showing such a lack of maturity and intelligence against, as I say, the bottom two teams in this league that have really crushed the optimism that was slowly building and was boosted briefly, very briefly, by that late Man United win. And, you know, Sheffield United 2, Chelsea 2, and I can't say that result surprises me. How can you at this point? But then also just watching the way the game played out, I'm not entirely surprised that Sheffield United found their way back into the game late on, especially from a set piece. We know how dreadful Chelsea have been this season from set pieces, even when Pochettino opted to bring on more height. That height in Benoit Badiashile literally failed to win his first header, which is basically the intention of bringing on a defender at that point in the game. It's to win those headers. It's to do quite basic things, and can't even do that. You can't even trust this group to do that. And you know, again, the shame of it is, like, I was very close to going full out on the ownership and hierarchy, and mainly the sporting directors that have been given way too much power to construct this squad. And then, of course, Cole Palmer does a little bit of magic and we all feel great. But I said this at the end of my review against Man United. You know, if these performances continue as they had against Burnley, you can't keep this going. Like, individuality and moments of chaos do not make a good team. They don't make a consistent good team. They don't make a team that are going to do anything tangible. And again, I think it's just, you know, the same thing. Each of us will have our own, like, individual things and perspectives on, you know, you can solely, of course, I think there is a lot of responsibility on Mauricio Pochettino's head, because as a head coach, you know, you face the bottom two teams in the league as Chelsea, who've had a lot of investment, who, you know, have got some decent results against better opposition, and you can't conjure anything. Like, he gave a big message post-Burnley of, we didn't respect Burnley enough. It didn't look like that group respected Sheffield United. It didn't look like they took the assignment seriously. Post going 1-0 up very early on, in what could have turned out to be a breeze of a performance and should have been a very convincing day for Chelsea to capitalise on some other results this weekend, they folded, as they have so consistently this year. And I think it's on Pochettino, the fact that this team looks so overwhelmed and incapable of controlling any football match, the basics of set pieces that have been demeaned and looked over for so long, but are crucial to winning and losing football matches. You know, it's no surprise to me that when you look at the best teams in world football, the best Chelsea teams, all of them were effective at defending and attacking set pieces. It was quite a shock to me that we actually capitalised on a fragility of Sheffield United all season, which is their inability to defend set pieces. So we scored very early on from one. But when you look at the shots on target, I think Sheffield United had more than us. If you look at the majority of the game, Chelsea were weak, insipid, too casual, made a lot of mistakes, allowed a team that are clearly going down to the Championship, just like Burnley, to look more dedicated than them, look more cohesive than them, at times show more quality in the final third to create better quality opportunities. That's a negative reflection on the head coach. There's no getting around that. There's no kind of brushing over that and saying, because to me, like, I just don't buy the argument that as much as my kind of percentage level of who I'm passing blame and responsibility and criticism on, which we're going to get to in this review, because I'm going to say it right now because I'm tired of saying it week in, week out. But, like, if the head coach isn't responsible, then there's no point kind of having a head coach. The head coach has to be responsible for things. And just because maybe you have, like myself, a bit more ire for people above the head coach and the system rather than individuals, Pochettino and any head coach in that role, there are just too many basic things in this group that I fail to believe can't be worked on, can't be improved. I'm staggered watching the team. Like, sometimes I'd be so curious to walk into the dressing room at halftime or be a fly on the wall at that halftime team talk. Many halftime team talks this season, because we've spoken a lot about the lapse and the dip in performance post halftime when Chelsea have needed to react, and that happened again today because Sheffield United had a few opportunities post halftime. And then also just on the training ground, I mean, I spoke about this in a preview I did for the sideline, where I spoke about, you understand what Sheffield United are going to bring. They're going to be quite basic, quite direct. They're going to look out wide. They're going to look to stretch the centre forwards. They're going to look to use their wing backs with a 3-5-2 system. These are not usual things that when you play that system, you are naturally having to look wide. But the ease to which the first goal was scored, again, I can look at the individual frailties of Motko Correa, who I think, again, was terrible today. You can look at the inability of even bringing back Thiago Silva, who, yes, did score, but offered very little experience that, he nearly set up a goal for Brereton Diaz in the first half that, offered anything that made you think, yeah, he's the guy that should come in. I think it was the same for Chalobah. It was the same for Disasi. It looked like moved to a back three, especially more in the second half. And then you bring on Benoit Badiashile when he, messes up his first kind of responsibility and his most important responsibility when you bring a physical defender off the bench. Again, tactically, I'll look at Mauricio Pochettino. I felt he waited actually a little bit too long to make changes there, in my opinion, personally. I thought that once Madueke scored, I thought, you would have, for me, I would have brought on Mudryk a lot sooner to try and hit Sheffield United in transition, but he didn't do that. And it's his response. We said this a lot, right? And I do think it is true. The team is a reflection of the head coach. And unfortunately, the team looks chaotic. They look at times incapable of managing on the pitch, managing dips in momentum, and incapable of seeing out things in a mature way. Like, these are all things that I say reflect bad on a coach. So you can solely look at the head coach. I think he absolutely has a part to play. The players have a part to play. But I think more than that, again, this is just further reflection on what is the bigger and more fundamental crux of the problem at Chelsea Football Club, which is the construction of this squad and the way this squad has been constructed, the way this club has been managed. We can talk about patience and young players all we want, but I don't think it's entitled. I don't think it's selfish. I don't think it's greedy to expect a club that has had £1 billion spent, ploughed into it over the past 18 months, to beat the bottom two teams in the Premier League, to look more competent against the bottom two teams in the Premier League. You're just insulting fans when you try and bring up that argument. You just insult fans when you try and claim that supporters trust, or fans, when they look at the current system, they look at the current team, they look at the reflection on the pitch, the chaos, the squad that looks too young to work within the Premier League, the lack of balance within the squad after all that money has been spent, and key deficiencies within the group. You're insulting every single Chelsea fan around the world when you try and tell me and tell all of us that our issues and our questions, not even like the most like angry of us, just asking questions about the direction, are somehow a problem, that we're watching something else. We can't see this grand project, this grand vision, this genius vision from the sporting directors, this genius vision from the current club that apparently means that we can't beat the bottom two teams in the Premier League. And that's just not short term, that's long term too. It's not a week or a month we've had with this current group of players. It's not a week or a month we've had with this ownership and hierarchy. And at some point, my concern is the direction this club is heading in. And you look at the way the squad's been built. You hear a lot of things about what's going to happen this summer, especially because the club has put themselves potentially in a financial position where they're going to have to sell some of their more impactful players. That's on the current hierarchy. It's not on anyone else. It's not on me. It's not on you. It's not on some random Twitter account. It's not on the Premier League. It's not on Roman Abramovich. It's on them who've taken decisions that have led to this point. And I speak a lot about responsibility. I talk about accountability. I talk about competence a lot when I speak about Chelsea, because we've got to such a point with Chelsea where I just want bare competence. And some ways we have got it through players like Cole Palmer this season, who actually had one of his quieter games, but he did set up a second goal. But that was mainly down to, of course, the brilliance of Noni, who was off the pitch by the time they equalised. So I don't have much faith that this current project is going anywhere positive soon. I really don't, because as I was going to say, if we had lost to Man United, I feel sorry for the current group because they have such a lack of leadership and balance within it. I think they've been recruited in such a slapdash way that has meant, it's very hard to form those connections very quickly. And it's very difficult for some of those very raw players out there to find guidance, because unfortunately the more experienced heads that we do have in this group, like Thiago Silva, like Raheem Sterling, have not acquitted themselves far enough to validate them being the older guiding heads. Again, just based on what we can see on the pitch. I'm not denying that behind the scenes players like Sterling and Silva have some influence and impact, but we don't, as fans, all we can judge is what we watch on the pitch. And what we watch on the pitch is a team that looks rudderless, that looks like they are incapable of handling being in front in the game. Very important thing. They look incapable when things go against them of it not spiraling out of control, which it did against Man United for a large period, which it could have today. I think if Sheffield United were a better quality team, as we saw against Man United, you're going to get punished there. And just to put a consistent run together, you have to, some people may have had insider knowledge and some people have been briefed about what this great project is, but for paying fans, for fans around the world watching Chelsea, they are watching a team that doesn't really represent them, that doesn't look like one that you can trust to go out there and do kind of the bare minimum. I mean, beating Sheffield United is the bare minimum this season. I mean, that's how embarrassing it is. Like, it's not, us winning today is not some great landmark victory. It can never be, because you look at the scale of difference between both clubs, of what both clubs invest, of where both clubs are going to be next season. One's going to be the Premier League, one's going to be back in the Championship. There would have been no great triumph today other than the 3 points, which would have got Chelsea back to European football. And if this project is incapable of producing European football pretty soon, financially the club looks in a worse state. So you should be, as a fan, you are entitled to ask questions. You are entitled to question the mindset and the belief and the self-assuredness. And at times it feels like a little bit of smugness from the hierarchy who feel so self-assured that everything is going to work, which we all hope it does. But when you watch performances like today, when you watch the chaos of the last few weeks of a team that really have been living off individual moments of brilliance, and that doesn't make a good team. That only lasts so long before you get caught out. I'm not against the players. I want them to do well, because when they do well, like they did in that very late show against United, we all get very happy. But I'm never going to come on here and just lie and just say everything's great, because it is not great. Because you look at the table, you look at the missed opportunities, you look at the frailties that we have seen all season, which is a responsibility of the head coach for not fixing those. But I mainly put it at the sporting directors and the way they've been given a lot of power, and the ownership are complicit. You can blame sporting directors individually, who I don't think are up to the job. I think some of the sporting directors just aren't up to the job based on what I've watched this season. I don't think they know how to construct a squad that can, even compete seriously in the Premier League. It's not even like finish top 6. Just compete seriously. They have constructed this squad, and it's so far off it on the basics. So from their point of view, I don't think they're up to the job. But the ones who put them in those roles and have given them a lot of power are also the ones who need questions asked as well, because I don't trust this is going anywhere positive soon. We'll have wins probably before now and the end of the season, and we'll be happy. We'll speak about the brilliance of Cole Palmer. I'll speak about the positives when players play well, because I'm a fan. That's what we're going to do. But be under no illusion, I am not one of these people who just is going to sit back and just think that everything's in great hands, because very little shows you that. There's very little for fans to show of real evidence of things going in a positive direction. So there we go. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below.